For this final bit of the linear equations final review, you're going to be asked to take a coordinate and a slope and turn it into slope-intercept form. And I realized I probably should have done number 13 last, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to wait to do number 13 and I'll come back to it. I'm going to skip to number 14. So hopefully you've watched the previous videos where you know how to do point slope form. And I'm going to assume that you already know how to do that. So that's the first step that we're going to do because we've got a slope and we've got a point. So that makes it really easy to take it and put it into point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So you'll recall from previous examples that this is x1, y1, and then the slope is m. So for the first part, we're really just playing a game of fill in the blanks. Instead of doing y minus y1, we're going to do y minus negative 1. It's important that you've got that minus a negative in there. And instead of m, we're going to replace the m with the 2. And instead of x minus x1, we're going to do x just minus 1. However, well, actually, there's one thing I'm going to clean up real quick because I know you guys probably already know. Minus a negative, that is going to make that y plus 1. And we're halfway done, but we don't actually have this in slope-intercept form, which is what the directions asked us for. So we're going to have to take this point slope form, so the y plus 1 equals 2 times x minus 1, and we're going to have to switch it over. You know that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So this is what we want it to look like. So the first thing we need to do is get rid of those parentheses because there are no parentheses in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to take that 2 and I'm going to distribute it to the parentheses. So 2x minus 2. I'm going to bring the rest down. And, of course, in slope-intercept form, that y is by itself. So we need to get this y isolated. So because it has a y plus 1, we're going to get rid of that plus 1 with a minus 1, which is going to give us the y by itself that we need. What you do to one side, of course, you have to do to the other side. So we need to do this negative 1 on both sides. We can't do 2x minus 1 because they're not like terms. So you're going to do negative 2 minus 1 only, which will give you that negative 3. And just bring that slope of 2x down. So in slope-intercept form, you have y equals 2x minus 3, which means for number 14, the answer should be D. I want you guys to pause the video, try to do number 15 on your own, and then restart the video when you're ready to do that. One thing that I should have pointed out in the previous example, I'm hoping you paused the video and then tried it out yourself, but one thing that should be kind of a good strategy to use and that I should have pointed out in the last video is that if the slope is 2, and you're dealing with multiple choice, there was really only one correct answer for number 14 because all the rest of them had the wrong slope. They all had the wrong number, the wrong coefficient in front of the x. So you can use that as kind of a process of elimination to help yourself know whether or not you're doing this correctly. So I'm going to start off with the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And I know that because my slope is 4, it can't be this one. It can't be b because b has a slope of 1 because there's no 4 in front of that x. And c has a slope of 5. So I know it's going to be either a or d. So now I'm going to fill in the blanks. So this will be x1, y1. So instead of doing y minus y1, I'm going to do y minus negative 3. You all know what happens when we do minus a negative. That's going to turn that into a plus 3. The slope is going to be 4, so we're going to replace that slope with a 4. And instead of x minus x1, it's going to become x minus negative 2, which also is the same thing as x plus 2. So we're almost done. So we have y plus 3 equals 4 times x plus 2. I just kind of cleaned up those double addition signs there. And we know that we need it in slope-intercept form, which means we need to ditch these parentheses for starters. So I'm going to distribute to get rid of the parentheses. So that'll be 4x plus 8 over here. And then I still need to isolate the y. So I'm going to isolate that y by subtracting 3 from both sides. That'll leave me with the 3 isolated. So it'll be y equals, and then 4x, 8 minus 3 is plus 5. So we know that in this case, the answer should be A. Number 16, I'm going to start off by putting it into point slope form. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Because it is in, we want it in slope-intercept form, we know that for starters, it can't be A and it can't be D, because neither one of those has a slope of negative 3/4. Hopefully you remember that if it's an x equals equation, that is a vertical line which has an undefined slope, which is not that negative 3/4. So we know that it's going to be either C or it's going to be B. So let's go through and do y. Instead of y minus y1, it's going to be y minus 3 equals, the slope is negative 3/4. And instead of x minus x1, it's going to be x minus a negative 4. So x minus a negative 4 means that's going to be x plus 4. So I'm going to ditch those parentheses by using my distributive property. So that will be negative 3/4 x, and then negative 3/4 times 4 gives you a minus 3. I'm going to bring down the y minus 3 from the other side. You still need to get the y isolated, so I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So I've got a y isolated here, and then negative 3/4 x. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So remember that we don't typically write that 0, which is why the answer we need is going to be answer B.